Joint Procurement Programme. We've put together a nice program focusing on city stories about their projects regarding V2G and smart charging. And we found quite some cities willing to share their stories on this. Everybody's welcome to ask questions. You can do this anytime in the chat. And you can raise your hand during Q&As after presentations. In here we are prioritizing questions from people who are directly responsible for local charging infrastructure, so city representatives and electric grid operators, since this is the core target group of this event, but others are also welcome to ask questions as well. If we cannot answer them during this event due to time constraints, then we will try to answer them afterwards. Now I'm Gert van Geurt, project leader V2G, V2X smart charging from the city of Utrecht. I will present this also together with colleague Bart. Bart, maybe you can shortly introduce yourself as well.
Yes, hello everybody. It's good to see so many people joining. Bart van der Rey is my name. I am active as a researcher, project leader for innovation projects around the, what we call the bidirectional ecosystem of Utrecht, and also as such involved in the Scale project. So kind of supporting here.
Great. And maybe just as a short reminder, Peter just shortly said it was already, but if people just hopped in, this event will be recorded. So if you follow this event, you agree to be recorded in this. All right. So basically, we have a kind of open agenda. Intro and welcome. We've done that. We start with a short round of present local authorities. Then we go on to short presentations of a few of the local authorities, with slides or without slides. And then we also speak about smart and bidirectional charging, about integrating policies around this topic. And we are working on developing an annex to the STF Joint Procurement Handbook, which is a European initiative, where Polis, also one of the Scale partners and partners in this event, is also directly involved in. We'll present something about that as well, and everybody's welcome to also help us on this. And of course, we end the event with a wrap up and some next steps. This is the second bidirectional cities event already. So did you miss the first one? You can check out the Scale website. You see the URL here in the slides. For a report of the webinar in text, for the slide decks of the first webinar and the recording. So you can also check it out over there. Now we start with a round of present local authorities. We found Sture Vik from Oslo. He will kick it off later, but Sture, maybe you can shortly say hi to everybody.
Yes, hi everybody. Looking forward to this webinar, indeed. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Now we also Mert Yaman should be present, or our colleague Erdem Kosabi from Istanbul, Kadıköy district.
Hello.
Hi, here, Mert. Hi, welcome, and congrats with your.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi, or good afternoon.
Also, Rafael Wadders from Uppsala, Sweden. He is present.
Oh, nice to meet you all.
Hi, Rafael. Hi, welcome. And from Budapest, we have Janos Heizer from Elizabethtown district of Budapest. Is that correct? No.
Yes, hello.
Okay, hi, welcome. Also, Tamas Fabian from Budapest municipality. Should be probably in the call. And Tamas Todbalo from EMS, one of our partners in the Scale project, also from Budapest. Tamas, are you there? Yeah, maybe later on. From Edinburgh, we Stephen Murrell is on the call. Is that correct?
That's perfectly said. Good afternoon, all. How you doing? It's like the Eurovision Song Contest. I'm excited.
Yeah, something like that. 12 points go to. Yeah, but that's later on. Yeah, that's
No
later on.
politics, so please.
Okay, and Pekka Koponen from Helsinki.
Yes, hello. Pekka Koponen from Forvirium Helsinki, so city innovation company, and Leena Kimari, who wasn't able to participate from the city side, but we work closely, so I can represent her here.
Perfect. Welcome, Pekka. Also from we probably have people from Trondheim, Magnus in the Haug in the call, and Pekka Stenman from Tampere City. And basically everybody from other cities.
If I may, just to know, there's 2 other cities, mostly probably most to listen than to speak, but we have Tim Aspergers from the city of Leuven and Margarida Coelho from the city of Almada in Portugal, and a former colleague of mine.
Great.
Nice to see you, both of you here. If you want to say some words, it's fine. If it's just for listening, also fine.
Exactly. All very welcome.
Everybody. Hello, Pedro.
Hi.
Okay, I'm here to listen and to learn about what is being done. Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Great. All right. So yeah, we're here to hear stories from other cities throughout Europe on V2G and smart charging projects, and their considerations, ambitions, challenges, needs, achievements. Sture, welcome to kick this off.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, we have it.
Yeah.
You have it? Good.
Yes, we see the presentation, Sture.
The presentation, okay.
Yeah.
So it's working, good. Yeah, my name is Sture Portvik, working for the city of Oslo. So yeah, of course, it's been a little bit busy lately because everything is going to be electrified in the city. At the moment, 94% of all new cars are in fact electric, 9 out of 10. So that makes me, well, busy, to put it like that. But of course, the focus now is more and more on commercial vehicles, big vehicles like trucks and dump trucks, and also building sites, excavators, and the bigger trucks, also electrification of ferries. So you can see some examples there, big concrete trucks, autonomous big container ships and high-speed ferries. Everything is going to be electric, and then you need, of course, a lot of power. And if you look at the sales of different cars here, private cars, it's a little bit modest. It's 89%, but now it's 94%. The vans is about 40% of new sales, but also the bigger trucks, more than 12 ton, 33% is electric, battery electric or biogas. And then you need a lot of power. But is this possible in the city? Do we have enough power? That's the big question. We can see that the consumption of energy is actually decreasing in spite of everything is being electrified. It's decreased with 13% the last 10 years, but compared to the growth of the population, 28% per capita. So some things are more efficient, but even so, in the future, we have looked, is the energy enough if you want to electrify everything, like onshore power, building sites and all that stuff, bigger trucks, everything is supposed to be zero emission. Is it possible? Well, we will get a deficit. Today it looks good and the grid owner is positive, but they haven't really calculated all the zero emission that is needed. So that's a challenge. we are missing some 800 megawatt per hour in the future, close future. And if you look at where we use the electricity, it's well, it's a big. The gray one is actually road transport that is going on fossil fuel. The other one is some distributional power. Everything has to be electric. In Norwegian, it sounds better, but then we call it's a strategy of UF. That means that we want to avoid energy use if possible, be more efficient. Number two, use the energy smarter. And that's where, for instance, technologies like vehicle-to-grid come into full force. And of course, also to be able to sell electricity back on the net using the public chargers in the peak hours to sell back into the net, earn some money, but also be a part of the solution, not the problem. And of course, you need renewable. These are some examples from a sports arena where we have a lot of solar panel on the roof, but also using like old Nissan Leaf batteries to fill up the battery and use it when you have like sports arrangement or concerts and stuff like that. So, but it's a smaller scale, for instance, than Johan Cruyff Stadium, which is far bigger. But anyway, it's the same kind of thinking. And this was established in 2018, I think. Also, we use like removable fast charging sites, for instance, for taxi down to the left. And also we test out battery swapping and also containers that is more like a movable fast charging station, especially for construction site. Of course, you need like energy efficiency, smart charging, and of course, vehicle to grid, and battery storage in various form, wireless charging. Wireless bidirectional charging would be fun. At the moment, only wireless. And we want to look more and more on the flexibility market. And the battery swapping, yes, it could be a good idea, not only for Chinese brands like NIO for passenger cars, but also for ferries. Because you have a limited amount of power in the harbor and you want to use it and fill them up in the nighttime. Okay, and carbon capture and storage on the waste treatment sites is important. And of course, more renewable. And we did some nice pilots. One was for, kind of housing cooperatives together with a lot of other European cities. The focus was to actually be able to make sure that everybody in multi-family housing could charge at home. And for that matter, we need some renewable. Also, we did a lot of stuff to make it more efficient. But also, we joined the C4 City program together with Amsterdam and some Belgian cities. And it was a very nice project. I must say that the most interesting in that particular program was probably Johan Cruyff Stadium and in Amsterdam, and also the project from the city of Amsterdam with smart charging for public chargers. Either way, it was really nice, and I think in the future we have to follow that step. Vehicle to grid so far has not been so much in focus, but it's as we saw on one of the more previous slides, in the future we will need more power if we want to make everything green. Up to now, it hasn't been a problem. It's more a problem of cost and finance, not of finding enough power. But in the future, we definitely would need some vehicle-to-grid solutions. So I think that's it for me, and open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sture. Are there any people from the cities who have questions for Sture? I see Tim.
Yes, my name is Tim Asperges. I work as an advisor on mobility for the city of Leuven. I just had a question on the last issue on the vehicle to grid. So I understood in the presentation that we don't have to panic on short term to have enough energy, but on the long term, that to get enough energy, the vehicle to grid is one of the solutions. And regarding this vehicle to grid, it is indeed correct that we don't see already mainstream applications yet. One of the reasons can be that we still have enough power, but is the other reason not that the car manufacturers don't like it, that somebody is interfering in their energy management system, and that in the future, this won't change?
Yeah. I think you're so right, because to do vehicle-to-grid project, wireless and stuff like that, you need OEMs on board. So you need the vehicles. And I think it's very positive that some of the Korean OEMs like Hyundai and Kia are following that path. But you need the vehicles. Previously, it was Renault and one other brand, but you need absolutely the vehicle to play with this technology. So that makes it a little bit more challenging, but yeah. But yeah.
Sure. Maybe if I shortly can add, it's totally true that it's starting up vehicle to grid, and there are OEMs who are now coming to the market with V2G capable cars like Kia with the EV9 and other follow EV3 and 4 will follow as well. Polestar, Renault. But in the Scale project, we are working on an open ecosystem architecture to present how we think V2G should be working in an open ecosystem. And in Utrecht, for example, we are also building that open ecosystem, which is basically open for all car manufacturers who are adopting the open protocols. And this looks good, but it's still an early stage. But basically, you could say it's ready. It's ready, but now we need the proof of the pudding, and we expect to see that, pretty soon, actually. But on details, we talk a bit more in the first bidirectional cities event on that. And if you have specific questions, then you feel free to check in. But Sture, specifically about Oslo, I was wondering, you said, okay, we don't have an electricity problem yet, but you think we need to have smart charging and V2G in the future. And also you were mentioning electricity consumption was decreasing, which is surprising. But how do you look at this? So these technologies and maybe also in the mix with other options, to stabilize and balance the net in Oslo.
You're right. So far, so good when it comes to the capacity, but it would last not very long, to be honest. So we have to do something, because the private cars, even if they are half of them soon is battery electric, it's really not a problem. The challenge is all the buses, all the trucks, and onshore power, and all public transportation, and building sites, of course, excavator, dump trucks, and all that stuff. Added together, that will be a problem. It's just a matter of time. So we have to do it smarter, and I definitely think that vehicle to grid is maybe one of the best way to solve that problem. And other one is to actually also connect up with the so-called capacity market. So you're able to sell electricity back to the grid when it's needed. But those two could be combined, absolutely.
Is it also because I knew from our contacts before that you were working on a new strategy for charging infrastructure in Oslo? Is vehicle to grid and smart charging, are they be part of your strategy in the future, or is it still in the work?
Yeah, it's part of the strategy on the innovation bit, but it's not going that deeply into details. So I guess you have more knowledge than us about that, but we see it as something we should pursue in the future.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Or Bart? Yeah, your microphone.
You are muted, Bart.
You're muted, Bart. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just said that Pedro was first.
Okay. So just a remark. So we have two questions in the chat already. So one from Lars Bern: what type of existing flexibility markets are there in Norway? And then a comment from Ari about MEB platform cars with large battery are already working V2G, tested with Intercontrol Latinki, 11 V2G chargers. I just have a question, maybe in the remark. So we talk about V2G, which is probably like let's say the last step of evolutionary when it comes to, so if a city like Leuven and other cities are starting, probably the issue is not yet there. But for example, looking to smart charging might be the ideal first step to start already working on future-proof infrastructure. So I would say, and also it's now mandated by AFIR. So it's actually now part of the policy landscape. So I would say like smart charging could be the first step. It doesn't require the OEMs to be on board. It requires agreements with customers, with mobility providers, with the CPOs, but it doesn't require actually, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, but if a city is starting, so if you want to go until the level of Oslo and Utrecht, which are really, really advanced because you're already struggling with the grid issues, or will be struggling in the short to medium term, maybe the first step, and this is something that I also wanted to ask the students, maybe start first with smart charging and then slowly build capacity, knowledge, and then go to vehicle to grid. And hopefully the market, chargers, OEMs, et cetera, will be able to provide and keep up.
Yeah, absolutely, Pedro. I think that's a great idea. We started with smart charging 2016 or 17, smaller scale. And I think you need smart charging. Already there is smart charging on most of the sites, and also for the more AC chargers curbside owned by the city itself, but also for fast charging sites and different hubs. So definitely smart charging, and it's a stepping stone to more advanced, like in Utrecht, vehicle to grid. I do agree.
Okay, great.
And the question from Lars, I don't know if you want to also answer before I give the floor to Bart. Sorry, just not to keep the. So what type of existing flexibility markets are there in Norway, nationally and locally?
Yeah, it's really new, actually. So it's, a little bit more than 1 year ago. It was opened up from the national government, so everybody was allowed to be a part of that flexibility market. So you could actually sell back. So far, it's more like pilots. Typically, Port of Oslo, they have huge need for power for ships sailing in and out from Oslo when they are at shore, but also for cruise ship and onshore power. But of course, the idea was to be able to get to lower the electricity bill, of course, but also to be able to just shut off the demand when it was needed. And And yeah, from there, it was a nice idea to actually be able to sell some portion of your energy back to the net. So now everybody can do that. You need an application. You need to have a good plan, a thorough plan, but yeah, it's possible. So we see more and more companies. It could be industrial plants and other that is actually connected so they can sell it back to the grid when needed. And that makes everything very good. And normally the demand would be for very short and limited time. It would be like 5-6 minutes on the more on the top peaks when it's very cold and everybody is using the electricity. But if you are able then to reduce your own demand, you sell it back and you keep like 70 or 60% of the capacity. So you don't stop everything, but you make sure that the people who usually get like 150 kilowatt on a fast charger or 22 on an AC charger only gets, like 100 kilowatt instead. And then you have a lot of reserve that you are fueling back to the net. So it's starting. So far, so good. But I guess this you have to give it a couple of years. Then we have more real experience with the system. But I think it's a good idea, definitely.
Interesting, Sture. Bart, do you have something to add or question or otherwise?
Well, actually, Pedro did what I wanted to do, point to the chat. And for the rest, I have something to say about vehicle to grid, but I will leave that for later in the program so that we can have the time for the cities now.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, great. Thanks, Sture. And if to the public, if someone has a question later on, feel free to ask it in the chat, also to Sture. It's a question for Sture. Mert, welcome to.
Hello.
To present what Istanbul or Kadıköy district of Istanbul is doing. Yeah.
I also have a brief presentation I would like to share. 1 second. I'll quickly share my screen. 1 moment, please. Yes. Yes. So it was right on point, I think, on what was spoken after Oso's presentation. We can say that we went into a collaboration with Hyundai and its PR companies. In terms of infrastructure, I can say Kadıköy, the existing infrastructure in Kadıköy, Kadıköy has the highest EV reach, of course. Kadıköy is the most, I can say, innovative district in terms of both the user base and also infrastructure. We, as Kadıköy municipality, solved the need beforehand because not many municipalities in Turkey, not any municipality in Turkey started implementing their own charging stations. We saw the need for the improvement in the infrastructure and started putting in these charging stations in our service buildings. Our service buildings, by service buildings, I mean which some of them were already solar powered. We have these solar power generations, and also the charging stations themselves has this is also adjusted to actually grid stabilization for balancing out the energy consumption. So they can directly feed from the solar panels, and they can we still do not have the regulations, but once the regulation is there, they can directly transfer the energy with the bidirectional chargers. The project are specific. We never went into a specific project per se before scale. We were also in many mass transportation, rubber wheeled mass transportation, EV shuttles, etc., and also light electric vehicles for logistics. These type of transformation efforts, like many cities. But we are the first city in Turkey to implement their own charging infrastructure, and we now have active 400 plus members in the last 4 months since it was implemented. So in this project, we will be creating our own power sharing platform. The participants will confirm that they will share their electric vehicles battery in case of any emergency. Kadıköy, like many cities in the Mediterranean area and also down south, we have a reality called disaster earthquakes. We have earthquakes very frequently compared to other European cities. So disaster relief efforts were mainly our subject, because when you need a motivation to use this vehicle to create options, we need to operate our drills, slides in case of an emergency, we thought, and we could actually turn this into an awareness campaign, and we aim to also evaluate this to 220 volts ETL outputs in case of emergency, we thought. So at first we will be doing this with 50 volunteer drivers with specific cars that was already talked about before, the Kia models, and there are some other Ford models. There are many of the extra all-terrain vehicle sort of electric vehicles are starting to have this output. So this output is of course needed. In terms of strategic goals, I can say promoting EV adoption by showcasing additional community benefits such as disaster resilience and also reduced emissions is very important, I think. And also we wanted to develop a replicable framework that other municipalities could directly adopt for similar initiatives, because once there is also of course individual efforts in terms of EV transition. Many people are transitioning to EVs, and most of the cities are trying to follow, but moving together and adding something extra, I think creating a value inside the project was a main drive for us. And also as we have spoken, the BMW has a model, Tesla Model Y has this output, Kia EV9, and one of the alternatives of EV6 has this output. Now we are in the point of evaluating which vehicles could be directly involved in the project, and we will make a call at first for people with directly these type of outputs, and we will keep our pilot group with in 50 people. After that, when we disseminate, we will be adding more and more people into the project, because it's there's a reality, especially in developing countries, that the people who are owning EVs, who own EVs, are usually come from a better socio-economical situation, and they are already aware. So most of the people, we believe, won't do this for the discount. It will just be a motivation for the expanding user base, because many of the vehicles will eventually be transformed into electric vehicles or more energy efficient vehicles, we can say, and we will be seeing this type of initiatives taken in many other places. So as I said, this is something to create an extra value and motivation. So we as I said, we have these volunteer drivers in order to create this solidarity, I can say. We will give them, because we are also very powerful in terms of disaster relief. We have one of the best search and rescue teams in entire Turkey. So we will be giving disaster relief training, basic disaster relief training to the vehicle owners, these volunteers, which will also be a part of that program as well. As an incentive, they will have discounted charging rates. But as I said, we are not expecting this to be the biggest drive in our effort. The biggest drive will be, I think, the sharing their experience, and actually including them as a user base to improve our charging infrastructure at the same time, and also see if this type of emergency scenarios are viable for electric vehicles to be used in terms of as bi-directional scenarios, I can say. It will be a good opportunity to see how it will connect with the grid or off the grid as a emergency charging station. This is more or less our idea. It's now in the process of being implemented. Finally, we didn't have confirmation a few weeks ago a few months ago when we first started connecting with Scale project. But this is a big plus in our opinion, because otherwise it would just be shuttles and electric buses and also electric garbage trucks, etc. Everything the municipalities infrastructure that could be converted to electric. I think in terms of communication and engagement strategy, the municipalities should put a lot of effort. The local governments should put a lot of effort. The state administration should put a lot of effort into these type of activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mert. Thank you for your perspective. Really interesting also. Are there any questions from the audience? Feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, I have some questions. No hands, right? Mert, what I found interesting is also your perspective of disaster relievers, and you mentioning vehicle to load for that. So basically, electricity socket in the car. Is that where you are focusing on your bidirectional project, or is it also a project with really connecting to the grid? When the grid is there. So
well, once the grid isn't there, as I said, it quickly turns into a disaster relief scenario. But once the grid is there, I think it will also be, because we already have the connectivity and the infrastructure to actually use this as a V2G, then it will be a good opportunity to test that as well, because the vehicle will be charging things, and the vehicle manufacturers actually, we were surprised, to be honest, in the start of the project, that the vehicle manufacturer is directly interested in stressing out their vehicles with drills and lights, and because they are heavy machinery, some of them, which doesn't directly require, which requires a further source of power. But these are huge batteries, and I think it's a good PR for the manufacturers as well. We wonder why more manufacturers are interested in this, because V2G will be the next step, and it will be, I think, once the individual power efficiency, as actually Sture mentioned in his presentation, because of the energy efficiency we have, the usage is dropping. Sooner we will have our own ways of creating this solution for our own energy, which will be the best scenario in terms of positive energy districts, of course. Then why not directly sell this to the grid, so it can be a continuous process, and it will actually increase capacity. So most of actually it is also included. That type of testing will be included in our project as well.
Okay. Yeah. Where possible. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. Any other questions? Now then, I've got one last question, Mert. I was wondering, the Istanbul grid, is it has it enough capacity for the foreseeable future, or is there pressure on it? Also, maybe the uptake of EVs now in Kadıköy is relatively high, but maybe in general in Turkey not that high yet. But are they already putting pressure on the grid and maybe other electrifying processes, or how do you see it developing in the future?
The answer to this question is actually a whole another presentation. Perhaps I should have actually mentioned this, because there is a huge demand in terms of transition to electric vehicles, and when there is free charging or discounted charging, even though you can see an incredible amount in shopping malls, the cars just falling in lines, just now there is a huge demand, and of course the grid isn't enough, and it won't be enough. It will continue not being insufficient. And once we have this opportunity to actually make it a little bit bi-directional, and also use our own efficient ways of charging these vehicles, it will be much better, I think. But we are actually in most of the scenarios, as I said, in developing countries, when people have this type of opportunities, when local administrations have this type of opportunities, they fill in the gaps in terms of in what the private sector is falling a little bit behind. Now it's only some of the gas stations have EV charging, but almost 3 or 5% of the cars are either hybrid or electric in Kadıköy, which is the largest number, but it will slowly get much more and more intense. Now you have just these chargers, DC chargers falling down from balconies, trying to charge their cars in garages of their apartments. Yeah. Most of the people didn't actually count in for the infrastructure when they are switching to electricity. So we have to just make this type of efforts to at least create some fast tracking in terms of this lane.
Okay. Thanks, Mert. Thanks. And I think it's good
Thanks
to
for the
mention.
opportunity. Thank
Yeah,
you.
for everybody who doesn't know, Turkey is in the EU Rising program. So even though it's not an EU member, but it is in the EU Rising program. So you can participate in this kind of programs. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, I would love to invite Uppsala, Rafael, to share their story on smart charging, V2G, etc.
Pedro already shared.
Sorry, I couldn't resist this, so I presented this recently.
It's the same.
This is from the city of Lisbon.
It's the same. It's very similar.
Yeah. So we need to be smart not only in the charging, but also in the way that we deploy the infrastructure.
Yeah. By the way, there's a trap in the third picture. It's just the biggest, our biggest nightmare, because then it creates a road safety issue as well. When the charger is falling on the pedestrian path.
Specifically also in particular for persons with disability, like wheelchair users and the blind, this is extremely dangerous for them.
Exactly. Thank you.
Rafael, you prepared some slides as well, did you?
All right. So can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Very good. Yes, I just have a few slides. So my name is Rafael Waters. This is my first scale meeting, so it's nice to be here and nice to meet you all. I'm a chairman of a committee for traffic and public spaces in Uppsala municipality. So I'm actually a politician and not an expert or public official. But still, I will try to give some words on what we're doing in terms of vehicle to grid and such. So just to put these things in context, since we are meeting now between a number of different cities, so Uppsala is about 240,000 people, and it is actually also a large has a large rural municipality in terms of compared to other cities in Sweden. We just made some decisions, and I think probably many of your cities have done the same. As you have these sustainability goals that are related to the conference happening now, and fulfilling the Paris Agreement and the United Nations sustainable SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And so in Uppsala, these are you can see them here. So we aim to be climate neutral by 2030 and climate positive by 2050, and now also climate adapted by 2040, because we're seeing a lot of influence from changing weather patterns and risk of a lot of both droughts and heavy rain. So, but okay, so mobility. When it comes to mobility, we look at these we look at it as has three parts, and one of them is that we need to change behavior, mobility behavior, and we have to plan the city as we build it, and then of course it always has to do with investments as well and economy. And so in order to reach our targets when it comes to mobility, these are the different tools that we are using, and when it comes to vehicle to grid and smart charging, it's very interesting to hear what you're doing in your cities. I think where we've come the furthest in Uppsala is because Uppsala is a very big university town. So 20% of our population is either researchers or students at municipalities. So it has a huge impact, and it's a big part of the city. And because we have so much research going on, we integrate quite a lot. So we have societal PhD programs where we integrate research within the city's challenges. So when it comes to smart charging and vehicle to grid, actually there are the PhD students that are at the university. They're also part-time sitting inside the municipality and with our experts there. And that way we get a very, very fast communication between research results and the opportunity to integrate them in society, and vice versa. The research gets first-hand information on what the real challenges are, and so that can keep the research up to date and relevant. So we do that quite a lot, and so this what you can see here. Oh, I should also say, if you have talked to the other cities here, have Istanbul and Oslo, you talked about the situation for the electric grid. Well, in Uppsala, the grid congestion is quite heavy, and we wanted to electrify and have all the public transportation, all the buses. We wanted them to be electric a number of years back, but when we applied to get that to do that, then the utility company said no, the grid company said no, and that there was not enough capacity left in the grid to electrify the buses of Uppsala. So that was something that was unknown before that happened, and it kind of came out of the blue because no one knew that there was this congestion rapidly approaching, and now it's a huge challenge because it also limits how fast the city can grow, for example, or which industries that we can say yes to if they want to establish if they want to be move to Uppsala. So that's a challenge. So but we are not aiming to go to 100% electrification, and when it comes to public transportation and such, and even private transportation, but it needs to be sustainable, of course. But having a lot of agriculture in the surrounding areas, and also having had a biogas facility built up since the 80s, we also see biogas as a sustainable fuel that will still be with us in the future, alongside electricity. And we just also we are in the last months of putting up our first hydrogen gas station as well. So I think we're seeing it as we will have a few different sustainable fuels side by side. And part of it is also because we have this grid congestion problem, then we don't have the luxury of being able to even say that we're going to go fully electric, because it's difficult for us. When it comes to smart charging, when that is what we're doing with this. So this is just a graphic, of course, but this house is built now, and it is a fully functioning parking garage, and we have integrated research on smart charging here in this commercial parking house that's owned by the municipality. So today, the researchers actually at the Uppsala municipality are controlling all of the charging stations inside this facility. And we do when there's research both on the technical side, but also on behavior and acceptance. So we have that type of research going on in parallel, and of course, moving to vehicle to grid, that is something that is seen as one of the main challenges. I mean, technically, we can, of course, vehicle to grid will not be a problem, but we also have to get the acceptance from the owners of those cars, and that may be the big challenge when it comes to vehicle to grid. That's coming from me as an engineer myself. So I think it's very important that we try to do this early on and start doing tests and pilots and together directly with the public. So for now, last thing I'll say is that we don't have tests for vehicle to grid yet. So we have smart charging, but we don't have vehicle to grid, and I think we will have vehicle to grid in tests during next year, but on this in this private facility, in this commercial facility owned by the municipality, I think during 2026 is when we are aiming to have to start piloting vehicle to grid. So that's a brief update on what's going on in Uppsala.
Thank you very much, Rafael. Interesting. Any questions from the audience? Not yet. Yeah, Rafael, I was wondering, so you're mentioning you have serious congestion issues as well. How long is that already? So the buses where the grid operator said no to electric buses. When was that? When it came out of the blue?
I think that was about 2018.
Okay.
2018 or something like that. It's 2018 is when we hit the roof when it came to capacity in the grid.
Okay. And how do you cope then with the rise of EVs, which is also quite steep in Sweden, as far as I know?
Yeah, the grid company has made has been able to make some changes to the grid to allow for more power to be transferred to Uppsala. But so it's kind of a short-term fix at least. So for now, we're doing fine. And there's also a planned bigger increase in the capacity for the city that's planned that will be finished by in the beginning of the 2030s, somewhere around then.
Yeah.
But I think the future for us is that it will never be something that we can take for granted that you can just electrify. I think we will have to be smart about it, and in one way, of course, that's a challenge, but in one way, there's also opportunity in that, and we see a lot of companies that are spinning off from this because of developing solutions, smart charging solutions, battery solutions, and and all kinds of energy and electricity related solutions that can help us shift the load demand to off-peak hours and also to integrate with the electricity market in different ways.
Yeah, the electricity markets are quite advanced in Sweden, is it? So
they're quite what?
They are quite advanced in Sweden.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there's more and more that are if you have a big enough energy capacity or either if you can remove consumption, or if you have a battery and such enough power or enough energy, then you can be an active part in the electricity market, and that is something that's been very, very beneficial for those who have been early on to being part of that market. So it's a very untraditional. I mean, we're in the middle of this big shift where we used to have production from nuclear power plants and being able to produce and control production. But then, of course, now when we have more and more intermittent electricity sources, we cannot control production as much anymore of electricity. So we need to control on the consumption side instead. So it's kind of a 180-degree shift that we are in the middle of, and I'm sure you are also in different parts experiencing this as well.
Yeah. No, what's interesting about exchanging this kind of context between all our cities is that in every city or region, the context is different. For example, in Utrecht, most Dutch cities have approximately 70% of the people are depending on public parking spaces for parking their car, and there's also for public charging. 30% has private owned parking facilities. In other countries it's different. So how is that in Sweden? Are most cars charged on private grounds or also on public grounds? How do you how is smart charging and potentially in the future V2G already part of it, or in the foreseeable future part of that?
Okay, you're breaking up a little bit. I'm not sure how my sound
sorry, well, it wasn't even a long question
for you. But I think most people are charging by their homes still, and then there's some charging at the workplaces. This facility that I showed you had a picture of. Yep. That is a combination of public parking and residential parking. So we're looking at that, and we're learning day by day the patterns of charging for residential and private in that example.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Any other questions for now? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Rafael. If there are other questions later on, as mentioned, feel free to ask them in the chat. Also, we have representatives from Budapest. Janos Tamas, are you there to share what Budapest is doing? There?
Yeah, hi, Gert.
Hi.
Sorry to ask for a couple of seconds, but I need to go somewhere quiet, and I can join you in a couple of secs. It's okay. Please just move forward, and I will let you know if I can join.
Yeah, that's fine. We go further and have you later on in the call. All right. We also have a representative from Helsinki, for example. Are you there, Pekka?
Yes, I'm here.
Pekka.
Yeah, I want to show you slides. I think Leena-Maija, when she will be here, she can have a presentation about the overall situation in Helsinki. But how's the sound, by the way? I get a little bit of echo back.
No, we hear you loud and clear.
Okay, yeah. Good. All right. But in general in Helsinki, of course, I think we have quite good electric. The grid, and the city owns the electric utility company. It also helps in some of the achieving the goals, which we have the same goals, 2030 climate neutral, and the traffic will be bigger and bigger part of that when the other actions are proceeding. So that's a challenge here, and I think in general electrification of the cars is progressing as elsewhere. City feels pressure in providing the public space charging infrastructure. So there's, I think private is quite okay. Shopping malls are installing. There has been requirement to build 10% of all the parking to have its charging capability, and of course we have tradition for heaters, motor heaters. The homes usually can plug their cars, so they don't have to have this like there's a ready infra for this kind of low or slow charging, but the dense urban environment, on-street parking, so there the city has procured. They have to procure, of course, the space. There's lack of, competition about the space, and this far the energy utility of the city has won these procurements, but that's seen as it's a bit too slow process. So we are together with the city. We try to enhance the speed of that and having a bit more dynamic way to raise infrastructure. But on the other hand, the buses, there was a lot of discussion about buses. So Public Transport Authority had incentives to get electric buses on the streets, but it's what their surprise of because when they're procuring the operations, so the companies were like they've been providing electric buses without incentives, so they already see that it's the lifetime expenses are lower. So now 1/3 of the buses driving in Helsinki are already electric, which is much more than was expected. And I don't think we have any problems with the infrastructure. Is mostly based on charging on depots, so not that much on the streets. And about V2G, so we have now EU project starting beginning of next year, e-Power Move. So I will be involved there, and the Forward Helsinki as an innovation company, and the city of Helsinki too. And there we are looking for developing V2G capabilities further, and I think it's not that much technical thing. There has been already the trials before with Leaf like charging, and even the software of charging load balancing was tested with V2G. We have a company called Virta, which is providing this load balancing software and for the charging infrastructure. So that's kind of I think that's more clear, but I think the more challenges mostly will be in the business model. How do what is the incentive for people to share their car battery, and what with these electric prices, so you don't get that much if you have a simpler system, so there's not that much incentive. But of course this Istanbul case about emergency was very interesting, that it kind of that makes us, there's a motivation to participate, and most likely having smart enough system. So I'm positive that we will find the model, but I think that's the biggest challenge in this project, where we have a residential neighborhood having on-street parking, and the aim of that development project is to find a way to get V2G used in that neighborhood, and kind of see what are the benefits for that. So interesting project, and together with Austrian and partners from Cyprus also. So happy to be here and learn from you also. I think we are kind of working on the same problem. I need to check this scale project also more in detail, that where are you at the moment. So sounds interesting for us. But any questions, so I can try to answer. But that's kind of, this was in short where we are, but we can be more specific later.
Yeah, thank you, Pekka. Are there any questions? Oh, Merit.
But Bart asked first, I think.
Bart first. No, Bart.
Yeah, thank you. Very shortly, congratulations with your new project, and I really think that it would be interesting for you to go shopping in what we are doing in Skill, because Skill is finishing by mid next year, end of May, in fact. Yeah, we are now writing a lot of deliverables. So yeah, I think it would be good for you to, for us also to share with you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, timing sounds perfect, and we will definitely check more in detail what you have been doing. Thanks.
Great. Merit.
My question would be like more to the general, I think, to the meeting. This insight, when we are trying to implement these charging stations, when we are considering V2G options, when there is these extra energy actually produced by the property, so that they can share with the grid. So I was thinking if this type of project pilot, as Pekka mentioned also, should it be directly, should it involve, because most of our low emission zones are targeted areas that we work on are city centers. But the place we can directly do this type of pilots, V2G pilots, is just a little bit peripheral or more residential areas. Now I'm just getting a feeling like that. Is it really possible to talk about an intense V2G transformation in the city centers, or is it really viable to start from the residential areas? This is a general question.
Yeah, I think it's a valid question, and but I think first of all, this project we are starting, so that the call was about on-street parking and on-street charging also. So that was quite tricky to find a place, and we've luckily found perfect place to test it. So it's but it has to be urban, dense urban area, because otherwise there's no on-street parking. So that's why we focus there. But of course, it's I would say that in Finland it's easier to start from the residential areas because as I said, there's a habit to warm up the car, even like combustion engine, warm it with electricity in winter time. So there's plenty of infrastructure already there. But I think it's also for us it's interesting to go into difficult environment and try to solve that. And of course there's a lot of benefit. Of course there's more cars, and then there's kind of a more capacity for also load balancing, and so it is interesting, and maybe seeing the buildings as if they start to produce their own energy with solar panels and other kind of heat balancing. So maybe then the battery infrastructure would play a role there. So, but we are kind of now we are focusing on because of the call. So we are focusing on the dense urban environments.
Thank you.
Thanks. We have Marin. Sorry, I think you raised his hand. Oh, Pedro.
Thank you. Just a comment indeed on what was being discussed here on the locations of the testing sites and also the publics. It's indeed something that needs to be considered, is how to align the charging infrastructure deployment with the sustainable mobility plans of the cities and the logistics plans and also the parking strategies. So this is also something that cities need to be considering. Sometimes there's different departments working on these aspects. So the mobility department with the parking, and the environment or the energy department with the charging. And sometimes they work a bit in silos. So it's important also as a recommendation for the cities that are now starting on looking into this topic, is to make sure that there's ample exchange, not just with the city outside stakeholders, but also within the whole city administration, and make sure that all of these visions are aligned. And I just wanted to raise that there's a question on the Q&A. I think it's a question that from Hans Rudi. He had put it in the chat, but it wasn't very clear. But now Bart and Gertjan, I think it's clear. It's not related to this discussion today, but it's about asking which bidirectional wall box was used. And I think this is a question directly for Scale, but I don't know exactly how to answer it. And I don't know if it's the place, actually.
Yeah, Andrew, I think it's not the right place right now for that question. I know, Andrew, you have my email address, so please send it to me, and we'll give you an answer on that. Yeah. So
I could have a quick comment to Pedro's comment. So I think it's also a valid point again. So how you need to get the city departments to work together, and that's also one of the challenges, and also the commercial operators, and and see it as holistically, like if you think about shared vehicles. So sustainable plans in general. So it's not, if in the local dense environment everybody has their own electric cars, so that's also something that might not be the best case. So how do we? That's what kind of interesting. But if there would be fleet of cars operated by a commercial operator, which people are using, and that relates to V2G charging, so that's something that we might end up thinking also, and right. So very kind of exciting, but exactly we need to have a holistic approach. Thanks.
Thanks, Pekka. Bart.
Yeah, thanks. Also to react to Mert-Jan's question, it's kind of well, I think we're running out of time quickly anyway, and so I just summarize a slide that I won't be able to present later. So in Utrecht, one of the things that are happening is a focus on shared e-cars, so car sharing companies, who in fact are a very great segment to be involved in smart charging and also in vehicle to grid for several reasons. And I won't present my whole slide right now, but they have a couple of advantages over normal cars. Shared cars are kind of the policy of the city to increase and to also improve the mobility exactly in the city center, where it's very dense, where parking places are limited. So they are pushing shared cars, electric shared cars, as part to solve that solution. And then this is a nice connection to vehicle to grid. Yeah, just to open that answer, because, well, we have more presentations to go. I'm not sure how much presentation we can give. That is mine. Gert-Jan,
yes, yeah,
now you're back.
Yeah, I think we are indeed running out of time. We also promised some other information. If we cannot have all this information in this presentation, in this webinar, then we will share it later on as well. But maybe Thomas from Budapest, maybe you can shortly tell what Budapest is doing, and then we go to presentation. Thomas, are you there?
Yeah, and
yes,
yeah, I'm here, and sorry for the earlier situation, but yeah, I'm here and happy to share some thoughts about Budapest use case. Let's start with a very short introduction about the Budapest, let's say the core infrastructure and core information. As you know, Budapest is the capital of Hungary, with a approximately 500 square kilometers area and 1.6 million of population, with an average density of approximately 3,000 per square kilometer. The broad system, the overall structure of the city is quite similar to Paris, with several ring roads, avenues radiating out from the center. So you can imagine how this city is structured. Quite important information that we have 23 districts with 23 different local municipalities, and there is a let's say let's call it the main municipality of the overall city itself. In terms of the mobility ecosystem, we have like 4 metro lines, 5 suburban railway lines, and several different tram and trolley lines as well. So in terms of public transportation, we have a very good, let's say, basic infrastructure. When it comes to like mobility services, we have several different taxi companies, of course, but bike, scooter, moped, and car sharing services are available at the moment as well. It is quite important to understand that we have over 700,000 private/company cars. More than half is owned by local residents, and the other half is coming from the urban area outside from the city. So it's very large number of vehicles we need to handle somehow. And when it comes to electric power system, I think it's a very well equipped city. We can find like the basic infrastructure we can find like literally everywhere. But the main question is, as at other use cases, or is always the available electric power. This is the one of the most important aspect. Where is enough power to install the charging infrastructure, and vehicle to grid and other smart charging technologies. I believe it is very important for us to handle the available electric power. We can use we can use it in our scale. Two different use cases. One is mainly vehicle to building with a lot of dynamic load management and smart charging features. We can use these features to balance the available electric power to the different endpoints. And we have the other use case with our municipality partners, the 7 districts in downtown Budapest. With them, we actually managed to set up all the hardware elements of a complex energy management system, starting with the PV roof PV production system, through the battery electric storage system, and vehicle to grid certified AC chargers. And I believe this is very important at the moment. The main issue here in Hungary and of course in Budapest is the lack of legislation environment, so to say. So without having a supporting law or government decision, actually we cannot really do the vehicle to grid. Because it's, on one hand, from the technical point of view, it's quite similar to PV production. But on the other hand, it's a total different use case. The supportive legislation environment, I believe this is the key when it comes to mass deployment of the system.
Thank you, Thomas. So that's the key challenge. There's legislation. Yeah. That's great. Thanks. Are there any questions from the audience?
I think Stephen had his hand raised for quite a bit, but then he, I don't know if you still want to add something.
Stephen?
really relating to the previous discussion. So unless there's anybody want to come in on this one, I'll hold off for a bit longer.
No, welcome, Stephen. Yeah.
I was just I've learned a lot today, having saw workshop 1 from yourselves earlier on to do my homework, and then the discussion this afternoon. So I'm now thinking about the sort of target market and who we could potentially trial sort of smart charging, which I think's helpfully been set out in this session to say that's your first step, get that right, and then look to advance on to vehicle to grid. So that's useful principles in themselves. Bart's point about electric shared cars being a primary user group, a key sort of market, is also of interest. My team have 2 contracts. One is for EV charging rollout across the city. The other is for car sharing across the city. So I'm sure that's shared across many municipalities, that approach. So I would likely be interested in reaching out offline, Bart, on lessons learned and what you've learned about the shared car experience, times a day, etc., because this is all new to us. We haven't done smart charging, let alone vehicle to grid. So, but keen to at least put a contract out that hopefully encourages this in through EV charging provision and indeed through the car club providers.
That's great to do. Thank you. We will.
Yeah, very happy to share knowledge later on, and feel free also to check the first webinar if you missed that one. And we also, good to mention, there's an e-course from coming up from Skill, also on procurement of smart charging infrastructure and etc. So also we can update you on that, and yeah, keep an eye on the Skill website and or Skill LinkedIn. Yeah. So thanks. Okay, we have 10 minutes left in the call. If you have any questions, still please feel free to check put them in the chat. We promised some more information, also from the Utrecht side. As mentioned, we're short on time, and we already foresaw that a little bit. So we have prepared some information. If we won't manage this to send all this information in those in 10 minutes, but we will send you later on an email with a wrap up of this webinar and also links to other types of information. But what we want to share, thanks all cities for sharing this. Maybe regarding Pedro, what you already said, what Helsinki already said, is really have an integrated vision on mobility. What our basic vision on mobility in Utrecht is walking first, then cycling, then public transport, then shared EVs, then private owned EVs, fossil cars, etc. So that will be part of our sump, which we are working on. As Bart was pointing out already, we have in market the shared cars, which are we're working on bidirectional shared car fleet, and that's actually also where it all started in Utrecht with Robin Berg and We Drive Solar. We mentioned that in the first webinar, but we now have next to our public charging infrastructure, which we have which is now being procured in the concession model. We also have next to that concession model, which was won by a large CPO, also the open market model for shared vehicles and specifically bidirectional shared vehicles. So we have a few different operational models next to each other in the city. And good to know is that on the upcoming Skill e-course, our colleague Matthijs Kok explains all of this. So if you want to learn more about that, you can check in with us, of course, but also check out the e-course from the upcoming e-course from Skill. And also, basically, what we are doing in Utrecht is also now a demand-driven, data-driven rollout. So based on different KPIs, I'll quickly go through this. There are our CPO, who won the latest concession. place new chargers. And in neighborhoods where there are not that many chargers, we have a maximum occupation rate of 50%. If the threshold is met, then a new charger will come in that neighborhood. But in neighborhoods which have already a large amount of chargers, then an occupation rate of 95% will sort of activate, is the threshold for activation new charging points in that neighborhood. With the vision that in neighborhoods with many charging stations, there will often be another charging station close by, which is still available. Also, this is also explained in the skill e-course. Now, Utrecht is also facing severe grid congestion, as we already pointed out in our last webinar. I think, Bart, we'll skip this because people can check this out in the last webinar. But as you were starting already with mentioning, Bart, this is basically also what we want to address. So I think it's good if you can point this out once more with the slide in the background. Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Bart. Yeah.
Before that, there's a good question from the chat. These concessions for infrastructure investments in Utrecht, are they by the CPO or by the city or by the site owner?
Yeah, it depends. So we have basically three sort of concepts. The public charging infrastructure for curbside charging is the investments is from the CPO. We also have recently finished a concession for public parking garages owned by the municipality. That basically is funded partly by the city, you could say, and then with a revenue model on top of that. And we have the open market model for shared bidirectional e-cars, and that's funded by the entrepreneurs here and CPOs, but the shared car company. But as mentioned in the skill e-course, everything is explained in more detail.
Okay, thanks. I suppose that's enough answer. If not, we'll see it in the chat while I continue in the last minutes of our time reservation. Yeah, just to press the point once more. So Utrecht is looking at electric car sharing of schemes of electric cars as the ideal segment to do this smart charging, but also bidirectional charging. And you have already been looking at the slide for a little time. What you can see is that it not only fits into the urban, green and healthy mobility targets, but what you see is with a car sharing operator, you have a lot more of cars under one party. So it's much easier to make a deal about smart charging or about vehicle to grid charging. The other thing is the cars are always connected when they are not in use, and the system of the car operator knows when they will be used again. Next reservation will be tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Oh, that means that we have time to play with this battery, to discharge it now and to charge it up later so that it is sufficiently full. Yeah, so that is the main point I wanted to press. I propose, Gert-Jan, that we go to our question.
To our question?
About the STF manual writing bottlenecks.
Exactly. Yeah, and I propose we have been flexible and to give more time to all the stories from the cities in this event. So we were not able to provide all the information as promised beforehand. So we will share via an email later on. Information on what was not able to present during this webinar, but also we will send a link where you can share your thoughts or maybe your questions or what you would like to see or learn about later on as well. So yeah, please feel free to let us know what you want to learn about, what questions you have. They were skipping this. Yes. In the last minute.
Yeah. So in fact, I'm happy that good presentations from all around Europe have come in the way of our, sending our little thing. But still, there's also a question. We announced it already in the previous event, but now I would like to ask it also to the people who have joined here. So we have half a year of projects still going on, and what we want to do is to do some authoring of the. Oh, what's happening? Are we still there?
Still there, Bart.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, something happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, now I see you again. We think it would be good for the partners in scale, led by Utrecht, Gert-Jan and me, to extend this manual by the SDF, which was written about 5 years ago, is being updated. Another update is coming on, to propose an annex to this manual about procurement of charging infrastructure, which is about smart charging, bidirectional charging. And we are quite okay to lead the writing together with the parties of scale, also those who are involved. But if we can go to the next slide, can I do that? I can.
Yeah.
I would like to know if any of you, especially the cities, would be interested to join that process, for instance, by supplying a short contribution, maybe just a few lines on, best practices in the field of smart charging, bidirectional charging. Or if you are interested to review a draft version of that document. I'm dropping this question now. We are out of time and so on and so on. But please, if you are interested, well, consider it, and we will come back to you if your interest is good enough for any action.
Yes. Okay, Bart, thanks. Peter,
maybe you can send a follow-up email to the people from the cities and
Yes.
different participants if willing. So this is something that will happen next year. So the handbook is now updated, but there's going to be the long version. And I talked this week or last week with the Commission on this, and they are very much open for our recommendations. So the future proofing of charging infrastructure.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and exactly.
Great.
So we are writing this, of course, we want to have a broad perspective. So not only from one or two cities, but what you hear in the presentations that have been made by the other cities is that there's a broad range of positions, interests, and it would be great to include some of that into this recommendation.
If I may just add one last thing, sorry. This is supposed to cover all spectrum of public authorities. So the ones that are just starting, like we hear from Leuven, Edinburgh, others that are very advanced, like Oslo and Utrecht. So the idea is to support public authorities from all sides of this spectrum, because these guidelines are made to serve public authorities in general. So if don't be shy, don't be afraid that you say, I don't have anything to say, because even something as simple as start simple, and we still want to know what is the first step. It's already quite useful. Sometimes the cities feel that they have to deal alone with the problem. It's also important to say that you are not alone. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of experience, mistakes, successes. So it's always useful to have your input on these types of documents, even if it's just a couple of comments saying this doesn't make sense for me. I don't know exactly what you guys are thinking. So can you make it clear for us? That's already quite useful for us.
Yes. Thank you, Pedro. And maybe as the last one, in Utrecht, we are building the bidirectional network with V2G capable chargers, but already implementing smart charging on a large scale. And those go hand in hand with each other. So those chargers can now already do smart charging on a large scale with all the EVs, and are capable to do vehicle-to-grid charging, discharging in the future when the cars are available on a larger scale. All right, thank you very much. Hopefully this was informative to everybody. As mentioned, you will receive an email with all the information, wrap up, and links. Feel always free to check in with us, and welcome for the third bidirectional webinar in probably February. And now, see you later. Thank you very much.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye. Merci.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.